Hey all. So, Enola Holmes is the much anticipated adaptation of the Enola Holmes mysteries and is actually the adaptation of just the first novel in the series. It's produced by Netflix for the same uh, online viewing service and stars Millie Bobby Brown as the titular character of Enola Holmes. And in all honesty, it feels a lot like you're sitting through an adaptation of a novel, but it's not bad if you follow. Sometimes an adaptation from a novel can be a bit stilted, a bit too stiff, given the narrative. But they manage to do an interesting enough job. For one thing, they keep a focus on having the character occasionally break the fourth wall and speak directly to you, narrate over the story, give you a bit of an idea of who she is, since we're the one following her and we're supposed to, in many ways, identify with her as the protagonist. It's an interesting approach to what would basically be, hopefully, a series of films, which I would really enjoy. I would love to see an entire Enola Holmes series, and given it's Netflix, they're able to usually produce these pretty quickly enough. Millie Bobby Brown obviously is getting to become a young lady. She's gradually approaching adulthood, and in this she plays a 16-year-old girl. I don't know her actual age off the top of my head, but as it is, she's done a pretty good job as the lead. Obviously, she's coming off of this from the popular series Stranger Things, also on Netflix. And in addition, she's been in all kinds of movies, including Godzilla King of the Monsters, which I'll have to review at some point. Anyway, they do a decent job of centering the story around her, but also having characters we already know, like Sherlock Holmes and Mycroft Holmes, her two older brothers, coming in and giving her her own mystery, though, making the story about her, making it very much her own vehicle. Now, obviously, this is based on a very successful series of novels, so it's not unexpected that, the novel would be written as such. But in truth, it's better than I expected. I wasn't sure what to expect because Netflix can go either way. Sometimes they just produce content and it's there. And it's just there to kind of fill out the ranks because they have ownership of the property and they've produced it. Kind of similar to some Amazon productions. And especially the case with Hulu. But in this instance, I feel that they really put in enough effort in a lot of the necessary areas. There's only one point where I was actually taken out of the movie. And that is when a page from her sketchbook comes, she tears it out and it ends up falling, and Sherlock Holmes, played by Henry Cavill, aka Superman in the Warner Brothers Zack Snyderverse films. Well, when just before he catches it, it's very obviously computer animation, and it really looks fake. So they cut the one corner there, but in almost every other part of the film, you're really believing that everything is happening as it is. You're following the characters as they are. The costumes are pretty good overall. It feels like it's about a much younger Sherlock Holmes, which, oddly enough, that was what it reminded me of at first. I was like, okay, is this going to be like young Sherlock Holmes, where they took certain liberties with the Arthur Conan Doyle stories and had Holmes and Watson meeting at a younger age, all that kind of thing. And it's often been speculated that stories like Young Sherlock Holmes and The Worst Witch were kind of what inspired the Harry Potter series. Well, the point is that it's worrying. I'm like, okay, how original is this going to be? Okay. And is this going to have a good message? Because obviously, a show featuring a very popular, attractive young actress, uh, she's going to be very much the focal point, and we need to have this kind of presenting a good message both for young people, but also for young women, especially since it's their story. And a young woman is supposed to see herself in the shoes of the protagonist. Now, it is heteronormative, of course, because most things are, but otherwise, you can generally identify with the character. You can see what her motivation is. They gave her some good direction when she was supposed to present a certain way in a certain scene. And I don't know, it's entirely possible that Millie Bobby Brown might have even read the books. I can't say. But the important thing here to understand is that you do actually get a good story. I think that a lot of girls in their early teens will probably really enjoy this, um, largely because it is about a young woman setting off into the world and finding herself and facing challenges and sometimes overcoming them, sometimes confronting them and losing, but always trying to be true to herself. So I think that's really a good positive value to bestow if we're focusing on the role that the story will play for uh, young women in the audience. I think that if anything else, it's a good starting point for if you want to have your children read the books, either through your local library or uh, through Amazon if you want to buy them copies uh, or get them the Kindle version. I can imagine it being a very fun and popular series with any household full of daughters. Uh, at one point, Enola actually turns to the camera and says, "Do you have any ideas?" And uh, they immediately cut to another scene, and I was like, actually trying to think, like, "Oh man, how would I get out of that situation?" Because that's what it's all about. It's planning an escape. So by that time, one does get fully invested into the story, the characters, and I think that's one of the reasons why this actually ends up being a really good one. When you have this kind of star power between Millie Bobby Brown, Helena Bonham Carter, uh, Henry Cavill, and just a host of other really good actors in it, it's hard not to say, okay, let's put the money in, let's put the time in, let's put the budget um, in to really produce something that people will want to see. Because at this point, we've been on lockdown here in the United States for 9 months practically. Some of us actually started around January because we heard word about a super virus going around, that kind of thing. But the important thing is that they actually put in the effort here. So it's not just some cash grab. It's not just trying to, obviously it's trying to expand on the Sherlock Holmes stories, but it really comes into its own. There's enough time without Sherlock where we're just focusing on Enola as a character that I think you'll get a lot out of it. And not just the girls, but the whole family, really. Uh, it has kind of the same appeal, I find, as stories like The Journey of Natty Gann or Return to Oz, which were two of my favorites growing up. And both of those were about uh, young women, in some cases very young, in the case of Return to Oz, uh, setting out into a strange world and finding their way. So I think you'll enjoy this. I think it really has to get top marks from me. So yeah, 5 out of 5 on Enola Holmes. Go check it out, everyone. In the meantime, if you don't mind, you can hit like, hit subscribe, leave a constructive and respectful comment. You can also follow me on Twitter or on Facebook. On Twitter, I'm Claudia Reviews, and on Facebook, I'm just Claudia with a K. And you can also support my show on, oh goodness, I'm on Venmo, Cash App, and of course I'm on Patreon. I do try to put some content specific just to patrons on my Patreon page. So you will get some special material there not available elsewhere. So thanks a lot for clicking over. Take care. Bye-bye.